Two childhood friends meet during a strike. One is a striker, the other is a police officer. France, 1972. The democratically elected president Salvador Allende, moments before his death during a military coup at the presidential palace. September the 11th, 1973, Santiago, Chile. The explosion of a boiler in a steam locomotive, one of the many scourges of the 19th century. Despite strict regulations for boiler safety and maintenance, they exploded frequently, making the machinist's job not only hard, but also dangerous. A man stops a tank with his body during the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia, 1968. In the late 1960s, Czechoslovakia sought to implement some democratic standards, like freedom of speech and press. A teenager at the ruins of his home 4 days after Hurricane Camille passed through. Buras, USA, 1960s. Circus elephants Kiri and Manny help clear the streets of Hamburg after a bombing. Germany, November 1945. Friedrich Nietzsche in a psychiatric hospital, 1899. Women at work, 1915. In the second photo, they're not pedestrians, but daring owners of bicycles and mopeds. No dog biscuits today. London, 1942. Puffy the cat, believed to have hypnotized over 300 people with her huge, unblinking eyes, 1944. Hiru Onoda, a Japanese soldier who hid in the jungle until 1974, believing World War II was still ongoing. Mad dictator Idi Amin declares a one-day war on the United States, only to declare himself the winner the next day. Uganda, 1975. During his rule, up to 500,000 people were victims of repression, with at least 2,000 of his own citizens killed personally by the president. Police protect a group of black swimmers and desegregation supporters from an angry mob, Florida, 1964. In 1952, at the Helsinki Olympics, Luxembourg's athlete Josie Barthel sensationally won gold. No one from the organizers expected a victory from such a tiny country, so they didn't have the country's anthem. The orchestra simply improvised. A police officer patiently waits in the hospital waiting room as the victim of a gunshot wound to the leg tells him what happened. 1978. Harold Gillies is rightly called the father of modern plastic surgery. Thanks to his method of skin grafting, soldiers disfigured during World War I were given a chance at a new life. The killing of frail children was not only common in Sparta. If a woman gave birth to a deformed child in ancient Greece, she would kill it. In Rome, this was mandated by law. In Moscow, between several hundred and 2,000 to 3,000 people died in the crush at Stalin's funeral. Official figures are classified. A woman carries a sewing machine on her head, using the local method of carrying. Women from these regions usually carry water jugs on their heads. Kuwait, 1955. How erotic comics were viewed in the USA, 1942. A British Army infantry regiment before heading to war in 1914, and after its end in 1918. Sailors saluting a war veteran, Leningrad, 1989. Portrait of Louis XIII, created by the French king when he was 6 years old. Loading a 5-megabyte hard drive into a plane, 1956. This massive IBM unit weighed over a ton. Elvis Presley waits for eggs and bacon while a black woman waits for her sandwich. Colored people were not allowed to sit. Tennessee, 1956. A strange device that horrified animal lovers, 1940. American paratroopers demonstrate psychological support during a first jump. Such types of sleeping arrangements were especially popular in the UK in the 17th century. They were used for privacy and protection from insects and animals that lived in the house. Pets were not trained, and there were cases of attacks on sleeping people at night. These sleeping cabinets protected them and also kept the sleepers warmer. During the bombing of Yugoslavia, 1999, wounded British soldiers with captured German helmets, France, 1916. Emma Lillian Todd, the first woman to design her own airplane, 1909. Prostitutes behind bars in a brothel, Japan, 1890. Most of these women, likely from Korea or China, were sold by their families or husbands to repay debts. In 19th century Europe, a wife could be sent to a psychiatric hospital for treatment of hysteria for the following reasons. If a woman argues with her husband and has a different opinion, if a woman reads a lot, if a woman is dissatisfied with her marriage, if a woman refuses her husband, if a woman is deeply interested in science, if a woman doesn't want to have children. About 100 people draw lots to equally divide 12 acres of purchased sand dunes. This place would later become the city of Tel Aviv, Israel. A Saro tribe member in traditional mask, Papua New Guinea, 1969. Russian inmate identifies a cruel camp guard at Buchenwald, 1945. One of the 1.5 million victims executed in Cambodia under the Khmer Rouge regime just for being well-educated, 1978. The De Beers Company X-rays diamond mine workers to find hidden diamonds, Kimberley, South Africa, 1954. At the request of astronauts, a piece of rough fabric was attached to the inside of the lunar spacesuit's helmet so they could scratch their nose. Apollo 17, 1972. Newspaper headlines read on a train to Stamford, Connecticut, the day after John F. Kennedy's assassination, November the 23rd, 1963. Linus, the longest-haired and longest-tailed horse in the world. Cotton candy, Pittsburgh, 1940s. A death toll counter from car accidents in Brooklyn, 1927. Armless Charles Tripp and legless Eli Bowen on a bicycle, 1890s. The oddest censorship. Women were forbidden from exposing their legs in the early 20th century. This led to beach inspectors actually measuring the length of their swimsuits. Residents of East Berlin showed their children to their parents in West Berlin. In 1926, 24-year-old Dorothy Ellen accidentally strangled gangster Michael O'Hara with a scarf during an encounter in a brothel. Despite it being an accident, she was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Strongman Galen Goff lets a truck drive over him at a California stadium, 1935. I'm not a camel, I want beer. Protest against the ban on alcohol consumption while driving, 1920s. Republicans fight Democrats in a snowball fight at the Capitol, USA, 1921. The appearance of the legendary meme, People's Friendship University, 1967. Jacqueline Kennedy, in a blood-stained suit, watches Lyndon Johnson take the oath of office after the assassination of her husband, John F. Kennedy. USA, 1963. A police bulletproof vest variant for the police. Germany, 1930. Surrendered Berlin. Germany, 1945. In 1959, the Volkswagen Beetle came with an optional coffee maker. Germany. Dachau concentration camp survivors use a shovel to exact revenge on a guard named Weiss. This photo captures his final seconds of life. April 29, 1945. Children arrested for breaking racial segregation laws. They were playing in areas where black children were not allowed. USA, 1963. Cambridge students protest the admission of women to the university, United Kingdom, 1897. Korean War veterans display experimental prostheses. South Korea, 1955. A chastity nightgown for procreation. France, 17th century. The inscription translates as, "with God's help." Policeman measuring a swimsuit's length. USA, 1964. The execution of Amon Goeth, the commandant of the Plaszow concentration camp. He was the officer who entertained himself by shooting prisoners from the balcony with a sniper rifle. The first known use of biological weapons, the siege of Kaffa in the 14th century. The attacking Tatars catapulted plague-infected corpses into the city, causing an epidemic. It is believed this contributed to the spread of the Black Death in Europe. Crossbow arrows in the skull of a man who fell during the battle for the Swedish city of Visby, Gotland Island, in 1361. Sophia Loren disapprovingly looks at Jane Mansfield's exposed chest, 1960s. Women's wrestling, 1954. World Bank President Paul Wolfowitz takes off his shoes before entering a mosque during a visit to Turkey, 2007. 18th century spiked chair for executing witches. Death by blood loss. This man survived a fire on a sinking ship in 1871, leaving him with emotional trauma. 41 years later, he finally overcame his fears and nightmares and decided to go on a cruise on the Titanic. The Strangler. Sakhalin, 1903. A woman could strangle a man if she caught him cheating, but not all women had enough strength. Thus, the profession of stranglers emerged. A ride on the metro, 1990. Soviet militia disperses a rally near the U.S. Embassy in the USSR, with the crowd chanting, "Freedom for Lebanon," 1958. Majdanek Death Camp, 1944. Soviet soldiers stand before a massive pile of human teeth. Fingerprints became a method of identification after two people named Will West were convicted of the same crime in Kansas. They looked exactly the same, but only fingerprints helped determine who was guilty. Colombian football defender Andrés Escobar at the 1994 World Cup, scoring an own goal against the USA. The Colombians lost the match. A few days later, Escobar was shot in his car. Each shot was accompanied by the assassin yelling, "Goal!" An image symbolizing racial segregation faced by Africans. Lee Miller, a U.S. Army frontline photographer, takes a bath in Hitler's Munich apartment. April 30th, 1945. Just before this photo was taken, she photographed the Dachau concentration camp. British sergeant training the army of moms during the Battle of Britain, 1940. Wedding rings found by American soldiers, Germany, Buchenwald, 1945. A Swedish weightlifter celebrates after successfully lifting the weight at the Olympics, Montreal, 1976. This is Teresa Adwentowska from Warsaw, severely traumatized by the war. In 1948, in a residence for disturbed children, she drew "Home" on the blackboard. In 1996, American Larry Ruttman threw a boomerang that returned and hit him in the head. Larry sued himself for damages totaling $300,000 and won the case. The Man with Two Heads, Pascual Piñon, Mexico, early 20th century. Female firefighters wash the blood of those killed in a German artillery attack from the asphalt, USSR, 1943. A baseball team of prisoners whose executions were delayed only as long as they kept winning, circa 1910. In a rural hairdresser's in Brittany, 1900. Che Guevara with Bolivian soldiers before his execution, Bolivia, 1967. Waitress race carrying drinks, New York, 1967. The armored Mercedes-Benz of the president of Ingushetia after an assassination attempt by the Russians, 2005. Beauties from the 1940s tried to save their skin from burns before sunscreen was invented. Price controls in Nazi Germany, 1935. Store closed by police for excessively high prices. Store owner sent for re-education in Dachau. American officers at the Ohrdruf concentration camp, April 1945. As American troops approached the camp, German guards shot the remaining prisoners. Army priest in a camouflage cassock, Vietnam, 1968. Farmer Mrs. Maud Lee and her daughter Pat enjoy breakfast with their pet sheep named Betty, England, 1949. Los Angeles police dressed as women during an operation to catch a purse snatcher, 1960. God Save America from Communism, Boston, USA, 1950. Finnish blacksmith Pertti Mäki stood in line all night and became the first buyer of a bottle of vodka after the repeal of Prohibition on April 5, 1932. During hyperinflation in Germany, workers were paid twice a day, morning and evening, and during lunch, they were released from work to buy something with their rapidly depreciating money. In the 20th century in Sweden, young women were forcibly sterilized as part of a program to ensure the purity of the nation. Violations of ethical norms included disobedience, mental disability, low intelligence, and birth from mixed marriages. Whether this clip sparked joy, anger, or just a bit of annoyance, I want to hear your thoughts below. Stick around for part 2 coming soon. Please hit like and subscribe to support the channel. See you!